It's Daf Yom Yerushalmi Pesachim. The article is edition of Daf Ayin Amud Aleph. The two dots with a header, the second line from the top. Ebed shel shnei shutfim lo yochel mishel shneim. And it's quote from the Mishnah. An ebed of two shutfim should not eat from either one of their korbanos Pesach. Really, from both of their korbanos Pesach. And that in the Vilna is on Nun Tes Amud Aleph, and that is. Ebed shel shutfim is around halfway down the page, counting the lines 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, about 18 lines down. Okay, so has a header here too. Ebed shel shutfim lo yochel mishnei shem. Yes, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi said, "Ein mishus l'rabo." His master does not have permission to say lomar lo, to say to him. Only first we change the next words to next word from efshi to efshi. So they say Amos l'rabba lomar lo efshi shit Pesach. They can't, and we'll explain the Korban in a minute. They said to him efshi shit man al zeh el al zeh. They can't say don't be memuna on Korban Pesach, but they can say you can't memuna on this one, you can memuna on that one. Korban says, "Okay, guys, the master cannot say to a slave, any rotzah shemina klal Pesach. Don't want you to be subscribed to all the Korban Pesach. To have avodim chayim, avodim also chayim. That was the tamei. Rabbi Yossi is speaking, and that's his line of reasoning. Nashim chayva vodin avodim. Women are chova, as you saw yesterday, and Abanim as well. Abel Yochel, my brother, he can't say anyone such thing on Pesach, zeh, el zeh. Say, not this Pesach, but that Pesach. Alakach lo yochel mishalim, that's it, can't eat from either one of them, or both of theirs, either one of them. You should say, no, not this one, the other one. So sometimes he can, the Eved of two shutfim can be subscribed to 3 korbanos Pesach. How is that possible? Hechavida, Eved shutfim, an Eved of 2 shutfim, certainly must have Pesach. He has to subscribe to Pesach. Shich, the says, Pesach nidni atzmo, v'humimo shel shneim. He needs to be subscribed to his own korban Pesach, which he gets money from both his masters to purchase. So he gets money for this one, money for that one. That one. Shikra emem chelko. One of them redeems. One of them releases his part. So then he has to find another Pesach. And it says here, it says half has to be his, half of his master. In other words, the original Korban Pesach is no good. So he no longer is subservient to that master. So he has to have his own money, buys his own money. So therefore, he's the second Korban Pesach, which will be a shutah with the other remaining master with his own money. Then, Shichlu Shneim, when the second one, now we release him, both release him, so then he needs yet a third Korban Pesach. As Korban says, HaKol Mishal Atzmo. Here, all the money has come from himself. So initially started with the masters were not mocking each other. They said, okay, fine, but each has to give money. And then one master released, so now he has to come up with his own money for half. And he has to buy new Korban Pesach. And now the second master released him, he has to come up with his own money to buy the other, yet another Korban Pesach in its entirety. So we're going to ask a fascinating question. We're going to ask, okay, ideally speaking, he has to be Nismana each time on a new one. But when he was Nismana on each one, it was legitimate, right? Meaning when it was on the first one was legitimate, meaning the second one was legitimate, meaning the third one was legitimate. So can he choose to eat from any one of them? After Acharei Kechlei Sakol. Of course, a person can always be Moshe Chado from one Pesach, meaning this man on the other. So here, he now chooses which one is one to is the one which he wants to eat. So Rabbi Yossi says, on a technicality, he really can. Well, you technically really can't. Sorry. Let's say Evid can't eat from any one of the three that he wants. So then, Pesach, he should never subscribe to a Pesach when he's even with the consent of his masters. Shema Yimalech Rabbi Shachos, maybe his master's going to change his mind and release him. So there's a Pesach puzzle here. There's going to be involved in the Avodah on Arab Pesach because he was puzzled. So the Mashbiach points out that it's not precise because the Pesach can be eaten, which is Nishka L'Ochel V'Shlo of kosher, right? So okay, he can't eat from it, but other people are in Menuim, I can eat from it. What's the problem? So he wants to say what people are going to think of him, and they're going to refuse to mimamana him lest he be released, and then he becomes the persona non grata, I guess, burden on the Goyim Beitzah, that he becomes the Shlol Ochel, even though theoretically Shlol Ochel is fine, but people are not going to be on him. So therefore, it must be that he still has to be able to eat from the first one, even though he's supposed to seek a second one, because otherwise people would never subscribe him in the first place. So it comes out a very interesting, put in this Gemara, that all this halacha that he should be memanim on 3 psachim is only l'chatchila. Really, he could eat from one of the previous ones. 1 second. The Ridbaz here has 2 big chidushim, which not everybody agrees with, but it's certainly not the Mechamayim. But the first chidush is that even though he could eat from one of the 2 first korbanos, not Yotzei's obligation with that. It's a fascinating idea. In other words, he could be, since he was nimna behechsher, he could eat from them. But now he's ben chayrin, and ben chayrin has to pay out of his own pocket. So therefore, or at least money, which he was zeicha in somehow after his ben chayrin. So therefore, he can't be yotzei with the first korbanos. He could eat from them because he was nimna b'kashrus, but he can't be yotzei the Korban Pesach. It's a fascinating dichotomy between like the rishus of eating from them and the Yotzias de Chavaso. So, but presumably, once he ate from one of the first 2, he couldn't eat from the last one. So, he will never be able to Yotzias Chiv that year. He ate a Korban Pesach, but it wasn't Yotzias Chiv, which leads to a very interesting lumdish issue of Kiyam Mitzvah without being Yotzias Chiv, but we'll leave it for now. The second thing is that the Ridbaz says is interesting. He says that from this Gemara, he wants to say that this idea of Pasul Mora B'Ravaya teaches us that l'chatchila you're not supposed to shecht l'ochlav l'shol l'ochlav. If you did, but the evidence is still kosher, but l'chatchila you shouldn't. Okay, so now the Gemara asks another question. Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha Rabbi Zira boy Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha said Rabbi Zira asked Harab Maushi Yetzi B'Hekdesh HaEved. Can a master be yotzei with a korban that his eved was makdish for him? It says Gemara v'lo mastisoi is not a Mishnah. It says he says to his eved, say Yishchot L'Etz HaPesach. Say your eved to shech the Pesach for you. It's quite explicit. It says when mastisoi b'das Rabbo. That Mishnah is with his master's consent, his master's intent. What is our question? Shulim b'das Rabbo. Can an eved go al das atzma? Represent his master, have a zochin shlo b'fonav, and acquire the Korban Pesach for him, and that the Gemara does not respond. Okay, now Gemara says chetzu eved chetzu ben chorin. If you have a half eved, half released, lo yachal mishor rabbo. He can't eat from his master's korban. So obviously. He's only a partially eved, so he can't eat from the master's korban because the master's korban works as eved part, but not for his ben chorin part. That was actually a quote from our Mishnah. So now, so I guess it's really a header. Right now, what it says along those lines. Somebody who was half slave and half free. Kiddush Isha, if he marries the woman, and it's a little bit chosim in a sefer here, but everybody says it's talking about on the day that he is a slave, right? If on the days Ovid is Rabbo marries a woman according to this Gemara, or this understanding, his Kiddush is not a Kaval Kiddushin. question of is going according to Mishnah Rishona, Mishnah Achorina, the famous discussion between Yerushalmi and Beis Hillel. It sounds like according to Beis Hillel, according to Mishnah Rishona, he might have a din of saying might have a sim in the big sheish about this. He might be considered to be all the time a kilayim, a unity of both arkava mizgis, as the Rogatchover said. In which case this would not apply. It's going to be Shammai Utobe, so he's not arkava mizgis. He's not a unified whole. He's arkava shichlis. He's half and half. So there's two halves connected to each other. Supposed to fuse together. So therefore, if you hold he's arkava mizgis, he could marry a woman on either day, because he's always arkava mizgis. It's just for Choshen Mishpah, he serves his master one day and himself the other day. But if he holds arkava shichnis, like Beishamai said to Beis Hillel, so then no, actually the day he belongs to his master, he's his master's. The day he belongs to himself, he's himself. And those two halves reside simultaneously in the Eved. So on the day that he's Eved ain't Choshen Kedushin. Now the Noam Yerushalmi says, who's he mean Megarish? How do you get what kind of wife does he have? So the Chazal of course say that Chatzi Eved Chatzi Ben Chorin has the special din of a Shivcha Charufa, that his wife is marries a Shivcha and she's she has a quasi marriage there. So that's that Shivcha Charufa. We would say Giresh on the day which he was Eved, ain't Choshen Gerushin. There's no Gerushin on that day. They make only it's only being Garsher and day when he's free. Shmuel says Choshen Gerushin. Shmuel says no, even though he's an ever Choshen for his Gerushin. After Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda, Shmuel's going to Rabbi Yehuda. The idea we learned Gana Misha Chetzel Eved Chetzel Ben Chorin. So this means if somebody kidnapped the Chetzi Eved Chetzi Ben Chorin, so the says Bnei Moshe, Perek Elu Nechlek Netiyatzon Gabi Hagoyim Nevesh Misol Gana Misha Chetzi Eved Chetzi Ben Chorin Yehuda Mechayev Misol Koyin Abei L'Chumra. He's called Yisrael L'Chumra. By the name of Shmuel, that's what Shmuel says. Or I think is also helpful here. So this will be going not just on Gerushin, back on Kedushin as well. Is a Mixas Yisrael also has an Yisrael. So even on the day, and perhaps even if he holds Harkava Shichnis, even on the day that he is Meshuvah to his Rebbe, to his master, still his Kiddushin could be a valid Kiddushin, and his Gerush can be a valid Gerushin. Okay, so so Shmuel says the Choshen Gerushin even on that day, and also the Kiddushin even on that day which he is Meshuvah to his master. Mishnah Halacha Beis. Omer Abdu Tzei B'Shchota Eis HaPesach. Somebody says to a slave, go and shech me the Pesach. Shachar Gdi Yochal. If you shechted a young goat, eat it. Shachar Tlei Yochal. Eat it. Shechted a young sheep, eat it. Shachar Gdi V'Tleh. If you shechted a Gdi and a Tleh Yochal Min HaRishon. Eat whatever is shechted first. So the interesting, important Pnei Moshe, I should say. The Bible is Mishnah Melech or Malcolm marry. This is told about a king or a queen. They said to their slaves, Kach. Therefore, if they said Shech Tegdir, if you Shech Tegdir, Yocham Rishon, eat the first one. Shum Shlom Malchus. On account of Shlom Malchus, to fool all of them, they shouldn't get angry at their slaves. Yargum and kill them. Inami, or else. Mishum Shem Smucham Avdein, because they rely on their body. They don't care if it's a gli or a tle. So there we go by what first. But regular people, the nefashos, there's no concern of the nefashos. Mishum Shalom on account of this peace. And also they're concerned with their suda. They really care. They don't just leave it to their slaves to decide. You can't eat from neither the first one nor the second one. The both have to be burned. Because you can't be subscribed to two pesachim simultaneously. To eat from whichever one you want. Because by the raisa there's no brera, there's no such choice. And when you eat from this one, maybe you didn't have in mind the other one, and there's no brera by the raisa. Now, so the Gina Shas brought this down yesterday, and we mentioned that the Yerushalmi Kipshuto says that the Yerushalmi does not seem to hold that way. Yerushalmi seems to hold that you go by whichever was shechted first, no matter what. Also, from the sugya which you learned earlier today, it seems that there's no problem of brera because the Chatzi Av and Chatzi Ben Chorin got to choose which of the three karbanos he wanted to eat. The first one, the second one, and the third one. And why is it not a brera problem? Although you can be mechalik and say that each one at the time he was subscribed to was the only one to which he was subscribed by Sher Husham. But it seems there that the Yerushalmi does not hold the problem, and probably because Menuyim can go back and forth and it's fungible rain over till it's over by Korbanos Pesach. Therefore, perhaps the problem of brera does not apply according to Yerushalmi by Korbanos Pesach altogether. So it will come out that either you'll go by the first one, or in the unique case of the Eved, because of the each one being correct at its time, that he has actually a choice. Continue for the Mishnah. Shacham Amar Rabba. What he forgot what his master told him to do. Kesa Yasa, what should he do? His master told him, but he forgot what his master told him. Yishuk Kedei should check both. You know, he said, "Dear Mali Rabbi, my Rabbi told me, my master told me to check the goat. The goat is his, Utleshali, and the sheep is mine. Means Mali Rabbi, and my master told me a sheep, Tatzeshalo, the lamb is his, Ukdishali, and the goat is mine. Shach Rabba Ma'amarlo, so it goes back to master. Master says, well, I forgot two. Shnei Mitzah Beis HaSreifa. They both go out to Beis HaSreifa, because you don't know which one belongs to whom, and the Pesach can only eat by people who are subscribed in it, and there's a mutual exclusive subscription here. They're exempt from doing Pesach Sheni because if it was shechted, and of course you should have shechted it, right? Because you know who's one and which. But if you did shecht it, right, then it's after, it's called, Moshe says it's after Zrika. So the Zrika was a valid Zrika because somebody was subscribed to each one, and therefore they're both parted from Pesach Sheni. Okay, Tara B'chia. Rabbi said, so again, sounds on the Yerushalmi that the Yerushalmi holds that somebody is appointed who's previously the person who's subscribed to Pesachim eats from the whichever shechted first, and the Shas wanted to resolve to make it work like probably it doesn't seem that way. Rabbi said much this, so it seems to say that. It says leave it like even whenever it's shechted first. Period. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yochanan both said to Rabbi Nosson. Let's see the play Moshe says. Rabbi Nosson, going to the end of the Mishnah. Rabbi Nosson, this really yotzim is zrika b'lo achila. You're yotzim with the spilling of blood, even though even if the enchil is pesach ma'keves. The even though pesach is not impediment to being yotzim. The time to set Perek Zayin. I learned to set the vase in Perek the Elba Lochein and brought it previously. They feel no subject of shchita, v'lo chaz achila misfeka. According to him, even the subject grows before shchita. The owner had already forgotten. The mishalech, the owner, forgot. V'lo chaz achila misfeka, and it's not chaz achila misfeka. Feel like you took a time b'yetzibo. Even still, you can still be zarek the dam and be yotzei because the zri can be done kedin, even though no achila can ensue. Right, so that's what I said. But that's Rabbi Yochanan Tarven Rabbi Nosson. That's why yotzim is zrika below achila. The yotzei was zrika without achila. Rabbi Chizkiah b'shem Rabbi Bar Memo said, "Tipater no, Sheshachach Rabbo Bain, here the Korban changes Shechita Zvika to Bain Zvika Lachila. Echanami, the Zvika was done appropriately. Let's see if the article changes that. Yes, he does. And therefore, it's not going to Rabbi Nassan, it's even going to Rabbanan, because time this week, they still knew, or it was still possible for them to know who was which. The Sefik only arose afterwards. Amar Rabbi Chizkiah, Meischaim Rabbanan. Rabbi Chizkiah said, one of the rabbis asked, I'm reading me say that Masorah, who are you? Rabbi Chizkiah himself asked the question. So Mashmiach says, why didn't he want to identify himself? Ask the question directly. Why said brother rabbis? So he says there's a powerful Musaf point here. He says Rabbi Chizkiah quoted Rabbi Babar Memo, and it's not appropriate for him then to ask a question after having quoted his Rebbe to ask a question on his Rebbe. So he said, therefore, he said, somebody asked, right? Even though it was he himself, in order not to ask to challenge his Rebbe directly. Okay. So he says, how can you say it happened ben Zvika la'achila? But he didn't say Mishnah Shachach. It says Shal Rabbo Ma'amalo, but or the Kormei Bnei Moshe both changed it to Shachach Ma'amalo Rabbo. The Mishnah said, if you forget what your Rebbe told you, your Rebbe said it was Yishchod Kedivet Leh. You should check Kedivet Leh. So it sounds like even go to Chatchila and Shecht, even though you forgot prior to the Shechita. You're still going in Shecht, so that clearly would indicate that Mishnah is going to Rabbi Nassan. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan said he finished Pisla Shali's Geyer. Person said it's like Pesach before he was Megayer. Finished Geyer, and then he was Megayer. So Yerushalmi Pesachim was bothered by this. There's no chiyuv whatsoever, even Rishus on a goy to bring Korban Pesach. The question: what status his hafrasha has before the Gerus says maybe it's lav dafka, just as put down agaburcha the next two cases where there is some affinity, but it could be there's no affinity. And questions he set aside what the status is. Okay, actually he's gavin his guy. Actually shtachrer before it's shtachrer, it's an evan and there's shtachrer. Actually he stayed stars, then maybe stayed stars, and then he was a minor, and then he became an adult. Tzarchim as a pesach acher. He has to bring another Korban Pesach. So the Korban the Sever Bali Chaim Nitchim goes that live animals which were not suitably a Korban and are Nitche if they were set aside, and they were set aside with Psul because they're not suitable to be a Korban at that point. It's a very big Kiddush. The Moshe says differently. It says Tzorchli Monas HaPesach Acher Dahashta Kigabra Achrinahu. It's like lo possession b'shem yikodim. It's like putting chadashos. Which by a cotton is a little bit difficult to say, but okay, it's possible. As in the Korban Torah about crunchy gil as the Dorim, he has, so therefore his neder does have some validity. Otherwise, it's just babble. It has no ramification whatsoever. But could be like me, Moshe. Maybe it's like and maybe it's only din l'chatchila. Maybe it's not ma'akib b'di'evet. The article brings down Meiri has a very different girsa. He has a girsa which says that they are allowed to be in their karbanos, which they set aside being with, which would make a lot of sense. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Kos vekas Rabbi Nassan, all vekas where he say that you don't have to do Pesach Sheni, you have to be Zrika. That is Rabbi Nassan. They're going to Rabbi Nassan, who said that you're Zrika, you don't need Achila. Chutz min hazori dam chatasa b'dam hashamo, except by a person who needs to be zorik his dam chatas or dam asham on Erev Pesach, and he has to do it after the Korban Tamid. That it's a suffix. But Yom Zorak, we don't know if he brought the dam chatas the dam asham at the proper time or not. Nasik is suffix kapora. It's like a suffix in kapora. In other words, it's his suffix of this person who's tamei, but the dam chatas asham was nizrak on him for him. So the Safek Kapar Kippur. The special the cause a special din like the local Moshe Messina. That's Korban says even though Svika Balai is possible, so it says you want to see Yochem, Safek Kapar Kippur Mutar Chol B'Kachim Afilu Achilis Numei. These even be allowed to eat the Korban Pesach. Amazing concept. Lots of are some who say that the reason why it works here is not because of some din or halacha Moshe Sinai, but because they have a chazaka Kohanim was using him, so he did it before nightfall, or cheskas yoim, so it's done during the mibod yoim. But it's also possible that really what we're saying is that Korban normally you can't do zrika without achila because Korban is made for achila. But here, where the Korban itself is suitable for achila, it's just that there's a Arya Revila, an external imposition on him that we had a question whether he was in state of kapara or not. So for that, the fact that they were Zarek the Dam of Zchat even Misafek, still means that there was enough of a tzad to say that he could have eaten, and even though he can't eat Lamaisa, but since it's not an impediment intrinsic in the Korban Pesach, therefore he's Yaitz to the Korban Pesach. And therefore they could do the Zrika, in this case, even Rabbanan, even though no Achila is possible. So where can Zrika not be done Rabbanan if no Achila is possible? Only where the Mania, the impediment, is in the Korban Pesach itself. Now where the Mania, the impediment, is in something outside the Korban Pesach. Could be. Anyway, according to, that's if you assume that you can't eat, not like Carbonata, and presumably the others are saying. Okay, Allah Gimel. I've shared the Korban Pesach for whoever one of you comes first to Yerushalayim. So he didn't really mean it. Once a person gets in and puts the head of the majority of his torso in Yerushalayim, Zocha B'chelko. He's Zocha in his chelk, Umezaka Echav Imo. And he's also Mezaka his brothers with him because really he just was doing this in order to be Mezaris them, to get them to be diligent doing the mitzvah, but not in order to exclude the other brothers. Learning ending my love, you can only subscribe to Korban Pesach, and the Bavli the says Olam Nimni Malav, same principle. Until at least it's is for each and every person. Nina Moshe Sidei Men, like we said before, you can be Nimna and to go off Nimna go off Ad Yishchat until Shchita. No, it's not yet over. We still have time even until Zrikas Adam. Rabbi Yochanan said, Leis kind of shechet. Don't read the Mishnah that I'm shechting it. It says, the time is Zakas Imo. Says Yumazaka the brothers. One of them shuv ein nimnim acherim imo. It's too late to be reminded them. Ein nimim alav. That after shchit they can't do reminding people anymore. Ela already mafresh kamar. So he says late kind of shechet ela already mafresh. Right. V'lamet nisa already shechet. So why does it say in the Mishnah I'm shechting for him? In order to be mazaris them. In order to say, come on, I'm about to shech my Korban Pesach, hurry up to get here in time. Okay, that brings us mamish to the bottom of Ayin Amud Beis. So therefore, we will stop here for today and leave Rabbi Lezer for next time.